Hey, it's Frank here with 4D Honeybee, and last bit of my winter preparation here. I'm going to make a candy board. I'm going to make some candy for my bees to dine on over winter. Here's a look at the beginning process of the board. So I just took a regular old medium super that I won't be using for the winter, and I added a 1.5 inch screen cloth to the bottom. I'll put the candy sugar right in the top here, and that'll hold it. You'll notice what I did too here was because this cloth comes in on a roll, it's got a shape to it already. It's kind of convex on one side. So what I did was, I don't know if you can see it here, I made it convex in towards the inside of the super, because the weight of the sugar is going to push down on this, and we don't want it to. We want to leave there. We want there to be space for the bees to be able to circulate underneath it. I will put some spacers in here too, so that it doesn't come down and crush the bees, and so that it can move around. I will also then, once I put the sugar in here, I'll then put a much thinner screen mesh in there, and then put on top some pine chip shavings and an adult diaper to absorb some moisture, and provide some insulation for winter. So that's the plan. Right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix. I've got about 12 pounds of sugar that I'm going to mix with a mixture of water and vinegar. So the formulation that I'm using, I've seen on the internet. I can't say that I've invented it or anything. Is 3 cups of water per 1 tablespoon of vinegar. And all we're going to do here is try to create a thick consistency with the sugar, so that it'll basically hold a shape while it's wet with the water. And then once you put it in your candy board and let it dry out a bit, it will become pretty solid, and it'll become pretty stable in there. So one thing though is that the added benefit to this method is that the sugar candy mix that you make will provide for some moisture absorption as well, which is a big bonus for the winter. So this is it. We'll just pour some in here and just get mixing it up, and I'll show you the consistency I end up with in a second. Okay, so this is the consistency I'm looking for after mixing in some of the water. You can see it's kind of like packing snow. Us Canadians are very familiar with that. You're going to put a shape in it. It's going to hold that shape, but it's not sopping wet or anything, and it's not too dry. Not so dry that you have a lot of loose granules, right? So I'm going to take the candy board. I've laid some butcher paper down because I have a roll, and what I'll do is just plop it right in here, and then sort of tamp it down a little bit, and then I'm going to leave some space for air to get through. So I won't cover the entire bottom side of the board, right? I'll leave some space. I'm going to determine which is the front end of it, and probably leave some space there for air, and maybe spaces on the corners as well, or maybe just spaces on the front corners. So I'm going to focus on all my ventilation on the front of the hive. I'll also put a spacer here so that the outer lid, the telescoping lid, can just be open a crack so that air gets out here. So we'll see how we put this in here. Hopefully I can show you one-handed here without making a mess or dumping the camera in the box. So I'm just pouring it in. And I'm just going to pack it down. Now this, I've got enough for about roughly 4 pounds of sugar per hive. Now all the hives had pretty good stores. Like I think they all had enough stores, but my bees didn't even really make it to winter last year. So this year I'm going to take all the steps possible that they make it to and through winter. So part of that is going to be to give them some sugar in case they need it. So that's the first batch. This hive will get just a little bit more, maybe a third more than this. I'm just going to pack it in a little bit, and then it should hold its consistency and hold its form and cling to the screen, so that so that it'll be good. And like I say, I'm not going to fill the whole box with sugar. I don't think they need that much, but a little more, and this one's done. And then on top of the sugar, I'll put another screen mesh, a finer screen mesh in, and then I'll put an adult diaper for absorption, and then I'll fill the rest of the box with wood chips, because then they get feed up here and they get some insulation value. Because if you can raise the top of the hive, the top temperature in the top of the hive, they'll be more likely to come up and get all the honey stores that they have in that top brood box. I have 2 brood boxes in each hive, and they'll be more likely to come up here to get this feed as well and not be too cold for that. Okay, so this is how it's going so far. I'll give you more info as the program progresses. Now here's a look at how your candy mix should not look. So you see how watery this is and how it's not holding a shape at all. Way too much water in this one, so I'm gonna excuse me. I'm gonna add more sugar to that to thicken it up, to make it much more like the first batch that was more solid than liquid. So again, if you pour a syrup like that in there, you're not going to be able to hold it anywhere. It's just going to run all over the place, probably end up killing your bees because of all the moisture content. So that's how you're not supposed to do it. I'll keep adding sugar until I get a much thicker, kind of like packing snow type consistency. And this is getting much better right off the bat. You can see how the consistency is changing, eh? Okay, so another step closer to finishing the candy box here. So you can see that I put a little ventilation hole in the middle of the candy because air is going to be able to come out through this layer. But what's going to go on top of it now, right here in the middle, I'm going to cut away and put in this adult diaper just to do some extra absorption. And then I'm going to fill the rest of the box, about 3 inches worth of wood chips, of pine wood shavings. And I'm going to end up putting these toilet rolls just in the front here, so that I make sure that there is some area that is completely open for ventilation, so that the wood chips don't cover everything off. And a word of advice, if you're 48 years old and you're buying adult diapers to do beekeeping, advise your wife first before she finds them in your basement and wonders just how you're doing. All right, so next video will probably be at the hives doing the final install. I'll also be removing my mite treatment. You notice up here I also put just a couple of pieces of coroplast at what's going to be the front of the hive box. The outer lid will sit on top of this, and that'll provide just a bit of an additional space for ventilation as well. So ventilation being key, you want to make sure they've got a lot of it. You want insulation, you want feeding, you want absorption, moisture absorption, and that's the best you can do to help your bees in the winter. So join me again tomorrow when I'm at the hives. One other quick thing I wanted to just do here is, now I've got this diaper ready to go in, I'm just going to plop it in right in the middle. I'm just going to weigh how much, I'm just going to see how much it weighs right now before we put it in. And then I'll weigh it again in the spring and see if it's actually done anything. So between 0.1 and 0.2 pounds is what the weight is going in. So we'll see if we take it out, we weigh it in the spring. If it's absorbed some moisture, it should weigh more than 0.2 pounds. All right, we'll see. Okay, I'm going to do one more thing before I get out in the field, just to make it easier when I'm out there. I grabbed this bag of pine shavings. You can get it from most hardware stores or pet supply stores, because this is, I guess, for bunny rabbits or something. I'm just going to pour them in there while I'm here and conditions are a little more controlled. And then spread them out, and then just carry the box out as one entire complete unit. Carry it into the field that way. Again, I'm not going to put much more than about, I think, 3 or 4 inches of this stuff. Keep it fluffy. I have no doubt that this will also absorb a lot of moisture. It's very dry. And it will provide some insulation as well. So it's not the end of the world if some of this stuff mixes with the sugar water, or with the candy mix. But that screen cloth that I put in, that mosquito cloth, should keep it all nice and separate. So let's see if that's enough right now. You can see I put in my little roll, my little toilet roll here, just to ensure that I'm going to get one area where there's ventilation no matter what happens with the pine shavings there. So I'll put a little more up there. A little more around my my little vent there. And then that's about it. Might just put an inch or so more on top. And then what I'll do is I'll take this butcher paper here and just tape it up to the box so I can transport it like that and won't make a mess of sugar anywhere. I'll go right into my truck with this, and then hopefully from here right into the hives and let them rest and relax for the winter. And I promise the next video will come tomorrow, and it'll come at the actual hives. Thanks for joining me.